Ahoy everyone, Tightrope here. In this video we're taking a look at the map changes and the general balance changes that arrived in the 2.0.5 patch for COH3. The 3v3 map Mignano Summit has received a major redesign in this patch. It is no longer simply a cut down version of the 4v4 map Mignano Gap. So first thing you may notice, there's been an atmosphere change. It seems to be foggier, just drabber overall in its presentation. Taking a look at the tactical map as well. They say that the playable area has maintained the same size, but yeah, don't have all that extra space on the bottom side, which apparently was like taking up performance and just made it harder to use the mini and tactical map. So they've addressed that as well. That's nice to see. And then overall in terms of gameplay, massive redesigns. They've opened everything up. Used to be like lots of walls and barriers really restricting your movement. That's no longer the case. On top of that, a lot of garrisons have been destroyed, and a lot of the garrisons that remain on the map have had their health reduced as well. So yeah, major redesign in terms of gameplay. And I think this was one of the highest vetoed maps before this. Place didn't really like it, felt too congested. Haven't been too many changes on like the absolute top side, but some of these buildings over here getting destroyed. Reduced in health. So yeah, another map that you probably don't have to veto anymore. The 4v4 map Black Gold has received two major changes in this patch. The first of which you can see up the top here, it now has 5 victory points. The first COH3 map in auto match to receive 5 VPs. There was one in COH2 called Launch Assault, I think it was, which wasn't very popular, but I don't think it was because 5 VPs. I think people just didn't like the layout of that map in general. But yeah, 5 VPs on this map. How they've done this, they've put 2 new ones, kind of one safe-ish on each side. I'll push this one up towards the top a little bit further across. So yeah, 5 VPs. I think this does make more sense in 4v4s just because there are more players, more opportunities, more people to go out and do capping. I don't think this will cause like a major change in terms of tick rate. I think it will quite often be 3-2, a differential of 1 VP, so don't expect the games on this map to be like dramatically shorter. They probably will be a bit shorter, especially stomps. One team's probably going to take control of like 4 VPs. Maybe this one will be pretty safely secured, and that'll cause faster matches. So we'll see how things go. Maybe they could like increase VPs by 50 or something to compensate. We'll see how it goes though. Experimental, they mentioned in the notes. It's an experimental change. The other change on this map used to be +5 fuel in the corner here. Now it is +10. So that's going to cause a pretty major change to the pace of these matches. You're going to run straight here from your base, cap a medium fuel point, and that's very hard for the enemy to harass in this corner. So I imagine vehicles are going to be hitting the field far earlier on Black Gold going forwards. Previously on Crossing in the Woods, you couldn't plant wire on stuff like these sandbags or along here, but that's no longer a problem. On the 1v1 map Langres, there's been a few changes, mainly to the garrisons. You can no longer jump into this one. You can see it's had its windows and doors boarded up, but you can jump into this one over here now. It does have a door on the far side, which will make it a little bit inconvenient for the southern player to get into. You have to kind of run around the side, but once they get in there, I could imagine a machine gun in this building being extremely strong for the southern player because it's right there out in the open, can cover pretty much any angle. Like maybe you could sneak down around here to get around the side of it, but yeah, I think that's going to be really strong. On top of that, because it's so far away from any sight blockers and stuff, you won't be able to sneak a flamethrower in to get it before the machine gun rotates, I'm pretty sure. So I expect this building to be very strong if it's occupied by a machine gun by the southern player. Also on this side, this garrison you can now get into. It's got the door over here. This building used to be a bit of a headache to deal with, but now I could imagine, you don't really need a mortar or anything too much. You could just jump your machine gun into this building. Very safe approach from it. It's not going to take any damage on the way in. And then just use your machine gun to just damage and force the squad out of the building eventually. So it opens up a few more opportunities to push back down into this area as the northern player. A few other changes, I think they've slightly tweaked the hedgerow around here a little bit, but not too many other changes, maybe some small tweaks around here as well. On the 1v1 map, Pachino Stalemate, the main change here is that these two fuel points here used to be only +5, but now they are +10. So we've got medium fuel points, 2 of them on this side of the map. So previously, you know, everybody used to play for the cutoffs, play on this side of the map. The whole early game was basically played down this side and send the occasional capping unit down the other side. But no longer. There's actually more fuel available on this side of the map than the other. So that's going to be a major gameplay shift. Also, it used to be like a low resource map. You know, it used to be +20 fuel on each side, which is fine. You know, it's kind of like the minimum amount. But because there was just cutoffs after cutoffs after cutoffs, ended up being a really low fuel map. Also meant that in the early game, you know, if you lost a couple engagements near the cutoff, you'd just lose the game because you would be so far behind in fuel. It was extremely hard to come back. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot more action shifting over to the other side. Maybe these cutoffs we'll finally get to see some action. And also there used to be toxic problems where maybe players could like paradrop units onto these buildings in the corner, like paradrop a machine gun or something, and then you just couldn't come over here and contest this area for the early game, and it used to be disastrous because this is where the majority of your fuel was. So by, you know, shifting more fuel onto the other side of the map, those kind of toxic gameplay elements are no longer as much of a problem. So that's nice to see. Relic have changed craters. I think generally they've made them shallower. So we've got a few different weapons we're going to try out here. Got the Obiche, Naval Bombardment, Scott and Whizbang. Going to see what some of these craters look like. So here we've got the Obiche. Still a pretty wide crater, but yeah, not very deep anymore. Still provides a lot of light cover around it. Maybe it doesn't look like it should provide that much light cover. Maybe more in the crater, not on the outer edges like this. Over to here, this is the one from the Scott. Again, a surprising amount of light cover from a Scott shot. And it actually looks quite a lot bigger, that's crater, than the Whizbangs, which is over here. Looks really small and piddly. I often wondered like what the difference was between the King Tiger, which looks like it's hitting a big artillery shell, and maybe there should be some light cover left behind it compared to this. I think maybe that's an area where things are a bit too ambiguous. Like some craters look like they should be providing light cover. Like this doesn't appear to be very deep at all. So maybe that's the difference. But from the default perspective, I can't really tell that kind of depth. This looks like it should provide light cover, but it doesn't. Whereas this maybe looks like it couldn't provide light cover, but it does. So yeah, I would like to see something changed about that. And here's the naval bombardment. I think I've got a before and after shot of a naval bombardment in this area, so flash it on screen now. Mines are now going to do 50% less damage if they happen to get triggered while they are detected by a sweeper like this. So first thing I want to try this out, will this apply to friendly fire? Mine here, I'm going to kill it. Did 100 damage to my Sherman. This one over here only does 50. So yeah, even to friendly fire damage, it's only going to do half as much. So, you know, driving over your own mines while they are detected, as you can see there, that actually didn't even do enough damage to give myself an engine crit. So friendly fire as well. Now we'll try it against the enemy tanks. That one straight away takes 200. This one takes 100. These 3 light vehicles all used to have like a stunning shot. It used to have different names. Maybe it's called White Phosphorus Round or Target Weak Point. But now it's called Blinding Shot. Doesn't slow the enemy vehicle down at all, but disables its vision and weapons for 5 seconds. Maybe it used to be 7 seconds in some other instances. So this is probably going to be the biggest blow to US forces. I think the 75mm M3 has been a big crutch unit for them, especially in 4v4s. So this getting nerfed essentially is going to make the scaling of the 75mm M3 quite a lot worse. Make it way less lethal enemy vehicles as well. Not going to get slowed on your heavy tank by the 75mm M3 anymore. Not quite standard as well. You can see for Axis vehicles, it costs 35 munitions. But this only costs 30. Just saying. Just saying. So we're gonna see how it goes here. Oops. I had that on hold fire. Apparently I did not. Let's shoot at this guy. So it looks like it only does 80 damage instead of the full amount. And you can't shoot it at infantry directly, but if infantry happen to be in their zone, they can get blasted and it can do a good chunk of damage to them. The Pack Howitzer, LEIG, and Heavy Mortar all had a massive drop in popularity after the 1.9 patch, where they had their AoE reduced and their auto attack rate of fire nerfed. So they're trying to buff them up again in this patch by increasing their barrage rate of fire and their smoke barrage rate of fire. So go and test that out here. See how they all do up against a machine gun about 80 range away. Don't really notice a huge difference there myself. Right. A little bit of a buff. Really trying to reinforce that in this game they want you to be barraging with these weapons. Like their auto fire is still kind of trash, but their barrage, same with light mortars, is where they want all the power of these units to be. While we're on the topic of light artillery, I would like to discuss mortars because I think they're a little bit underpowered in their current state. Like their barrage is pretty solid, especially against machine guns and units that are clumped up in cover. So, in my ranks, players are pretty good at dodging that. They hear the mortar fire and they dodge. Maybe you get like one shell on them and then you have to wait 20 seconds for the barrage to cool down. And because the auto fire rate of fire is so bad, they're basically useless for the next like 20 seconds. So yeah, that's a problem for them. On top of that, some of these more spaced out team weapons like the flak gun or the AT gun, the really tight scatter on the barrage means that if you're lucky, you're basically only damaging 2 models at a time, and it's just not enough to chew through the amount of health that they have. Because the AoE on them is so bad and one portion of the damage cap gets soaked into the weapon, you're only ever damaging 2 models at a time, so they're just not very effective against basically any support weapon apart from machine guns or other mortars, because they're too spread out, they've got too much health, and the AoE on these is too bad. Then, stacked on top of that, the Brit Mortar Vet 1 Entrenchment. I know that they wanted all the British team weapons to have the same Vet 1, but it's just trash on this unit. So bad, barely buffs them at all. They're still going to die to 1 Walking Stuka Barrage, even with this 25% damage reduction. Just, they need a new Vet 1 on this mortar, because it is garbage compared to the Flare, which is really good, which is, even though the Flare is super good, we still don't see the mortar very often. That's maybe indictment on how bad mortars are at the moment. And, the Vet 1 abilities on the M1. They have nerfed the airburst in this patch, which we'll have a look at later. But yeah, this is just like a garbage ability compared to every other mortar. And then finally, in team games, a lot of players are rushing on artillery units like the Bishop, Nebel, Walking Stuka, though that arrives a little bit later. And these things are maybe a little bit overtuned at the moment, and they completely slaughter mortars. So that really limits the amount of time you can use them. And, things like the heavy mortar as well. So yeah, until these get nerfed properly, which they did not in this patch, I think these will still be quite limited in how much use they see. Relic have further sped up the construction of field defenses. So this is things like wire, sandbags, tank traps. They all will now take about a third less time to construct. So yeah, after the previous patch where Relic made it so you can no longer construct while capping, they sped them up a bit. Now they sped them up quite a lot more. So I wanted to see how this goes. Just going to send a squad in to plant some sandbags behind a point, kind of like you would in the past. 2 strips. See how long that takes compared to how much capping you do. So it looks like you can maybe construct 1 sandbag before losing all your capture progress. But overall, putting down 2 strips of sandbags, like doesn't feel like it takes that long. Doesn't feel like it's that big of an interruption to your capturing. So I think I would probably not do it on like a backwards point like this, which is quite safe. Maybe you're not expecting too much fighting to happen. But in the early stages of the game, maybe in these more hotly contested areas, probably going to be worth chucking down enough sandbags before you properly get your capping going so you can sit there and defend that point because, yeah, I mean, they're constructing pretty damn fast now. Let's have a look at wire. Like, how much time is it going to take me to wire this off before running across here? Check down some wire, queued up the move command. You know, that's barely slowing me down at all. So you're going to be a bit busier in the early game. Maybe wiring more stuff off, doing more actions because these kind of things are not going to slow you down by much. One thing that I am a bit worried about, though, is that they did speed up tank trap production by quite a lot. And I feel like tank traps are not very fun to play against. And now they're going to, come up pretty fast. So could allow for some pretty campy gameplay. That's maybe a little bit of a drawback to these changes, especially if you don't really have a composition that has an easy way to crush them. A vehicle that has heavy crush to clear them off. This could be a real problem. That's it for the general balance changes, but there was one thing I wanted to ask you guys about. How are you feeling about the rear armor hits doing bonus damage on medium and heavy tanks? I think for myself, maybe I'm like minor towards the negative. Like maybe it could be removed from medium tanks and left on heavy tanks because they did go through that phase of mega buffing up the frontal armor of heavies. So maybe they do need that vulnerability. On top of that, because heavies are so large, not many scatter shots are going to be coming their way. Most of the shots are going to land through the accuracy system, not through the scatter system. So you're not going to have like rear arm hits from the front as often on heavy tanks as you do on mediums. As I said, I'm not hugely opposed to it or anything like that, but because we're only going to be getting balance patches once every 3 months, at least that's what it looks like from the roadmap, I think it's worth discussing at this stage. Maybe Relic can take the temperature, see if they want to keep that change in or not. Thank you to all of my Patreon backers, and if you're enjoying my content, I hope you consider coming on board.